When I share my status, people are really surprised, even among other undocumented immigrants. When I tell, for example, coworkers who are undocumented as well, oh, I came when I was 5 months old, they're in shock because I speak English well, or because I went to college, and so forth. And they're just in disbelief. And so, of course, I try to explain to them, well, I came when I was 5 months old. And they're like, oh, you were practically born here. Practically, but that makes a huge difference. Those 5 months make all the difference in my life.
I am an African. I am a Malian, a Muslim, and I am a woman.
I would consider myself a very whitewashed Mexican because I am very proud of being Mexican. At the same time, I'm very Americanized and my values are pretty American.
Well, on the cover of Time magazine, here I am, right there. That's right there. And I remember being at this photo shoot, and we all had to say, what was our identity. And some of us said, oh, I'm South Korean. And I remember just thinking, I'm an undocumented American. And this cover says that this cover does say that. We are Americans.
Sometimes I consider myself American, but because the country keeps denying me of that right, fully, completely, I am back to not being from here, not being fully Mexican because I'm not there. I don't share a lot of the, things that I'm missing out in back home. So I guess that sometimes I just feel like I'm in that gray area of not knowing what to call myself, but just knowing that I feel that I belong here.
It all began with my father coming here when I was about 3. Then my mother, my brother, and I decided to cross the border. Well, my parents decided for us, and my mother found a coyote to smuggle us past the border into the U.S. To me, it was an adventure. Walking through, we crossed to Tijuana. So walking through the valley was like an adventure. Spending a night there was an adventure. We weren't supposed to spend the night there, but because the coyote fell asleep, we missed a ride. So we ended up spending an entire day there. But to me, it was like child's play. Now I look back and I was thinking, it must have been terribly alarming and like nerve-wracking for my mom to be there with her 2 kids and then some strange man and not know what was going on.
When my mother, my sister, and I crossed, we were in a car. And from what I have been told, we were supposed to be really quiet. Unfortunately, I did not stop crying, but we made it. And so from California or so, we were then transported to New York and reunited with my father.
For some reason, my entire family decided to move to New York. I never really understood why so far and so cold. My dad moved here first. He moved, I think, like 4 years before us to like come here and make money and stuff. And then my mom decided that we should all be together, so we all moved over.
My family moved to the United States in 1981, so I was about a year old. And they came on student visas, and after about 4 years, those visas expired. And me and my brother were still here. And so by the time I was 5, I became undocumented.
It wasn't until I reached high school or so that I realized that my status was going to hinder me from reaching my goals and my future, pretty much, because I wanted to go to college, and because of my immigration status, I was not able to pursue those things like the rest of my peers.
I had went to Stuyvesant High School, and when I was a junior, I wanted to do this hospital residency program. And so I had gone to the hospital, and the hospital wanted my green card for some sort of reason, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'll just go home and get it. And so I went back to my parents' grocery store, and I asked my mom, I was like, where's my green card? And then she says, it's at the house. You know, so I went back home to find this mythical, magical green card, right? And of course, I could never find it after searching. And so I called her back and I said, where is it? And she says, well, Joma, you don't have one. And you can't tell anybody about this either. And I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Usually I don't talk about it. Like, I am shy and ashamed of myself. So I don't talk about it to anybody.
I was never really sure up until I think about 5th grade, where some kids were making jokes in class and I didn't really understand it, so I asked my sister and then she explained it to me. She just said like, oh, you're not a legal citizen of this country, and I was like, oh, okay. And it didn't really bother me because I was like 5th grade, so I was like, whatever.
I don't identify just as being an undocumented immigrant, but I feel like that is a big part of who I am. And the fact that I am undocumented has made me the person I am today.
There's no profile. There's not like one category of people who like are undocumented students. Like there's just so many of us that you would be surprised. And I don't think people would say I was undocumented just because I was sitting next to them. Like someone sharing my story sometimes I would get, well, you don't look undocumented.
Being undocumented is like being in this invisible prison and you're stuck there behind these invisible bars. And then you see what your friends and peers do and you want to be a part of that, but you're not. I think you're always reminded that you can't vote and you can't drive.
The fear of deportation is really scary because like they could just kick me out and my whole life's just changed. I have to say the first time I ever went to look for a job and I walked into this deli and he was like, so do you have working papers? And I was like, oh, well, no, and I explained everything. He was like, oh, I can give you the job. And it had to be like not getting a job like solely because of that reason. It had to be one of the most discouraging things. Like I just went straight home after that.
It's hard enough being the first person in your family going to college, but it makes it 20 times harder when you're the first one and you're undocumented and there's literally nobody to tell you left from right or up and down or what's the process that you're supposed to do as far as college goes.
For a very long time in my life, I was really scared to tell other people about my status as an undocumented immigrant. But later on, I realized that by being open, you feel empowered and you get to share knowledge to other people because a lot of misconceptions are out there. There's a lot of undocumented students in high schools, and quite frankly, according to statistics, 65,000 immigrants without documents like myself graduate every year. 65,000.
I believe the biggest misconception is that we don't pay taxes. We're here to mooch off the system and we don't contribute at all. And there's so many of us that pay taxes, income taxes, state taxes. You know, we have an ITIN number, individual tax ID number, which allows us, even if we don't have social security numbers, to pay taxes to the federal government.
Not every undocumented immigrant cleans bathrooms and mows lawns. My uncle actually works as like a manager of a plant, and my dad has his own little business where he does like handiwork and stuff, and he's very skilled. Well, I believe that a lot of people think it's just a Latino issue, a Mexican issue, and I'm proof that it's not. And so when you have all these people who are from Asia, from Europe, and from Africa as well, it's a global issue that affects all of us.
I get a kick out of hearing the reactions that people tell me, because they usually go, oh, where are you from? Well, what do you mean? Where are we from? It's like, oh, I'm Mexican. Oh, you're Mexican? Oh, you don't look Mexican. Not that I don't know what a Mexican is supposed to look like, but that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
And then later on I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm undocumented. No, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am.
Some of them kind of assume that I am undocumented once they find out that I am Mexican. It's like, oh, okay, you know, you're Mexican. So of course you have to be undocumented.
I told my situation to one of my college supervisors, and she was more than helpful and everything, but I own an iPad, and I found it really funny that she related, she's like, you're undocumented, but you own an iPad.
I think that as teachers and guidance counselors, they should always have high standards for all students, regardless of their immigration status. So I know that many times we don't feel comfortable sharing our immigration status for fear, for shame, for different reasons. However, as guidance counselors and as teachers, our jobs or their jobs is to provide the information. And right now in New York, there's a lot of immigrants in New York, right? So why not look for those resources and provide them to all your students? Everyone should have access to education, and here in New York, we also have the chance to have access to that education. Institution, we are able to go to SUNY and CUNY colleges, even some private colleges as well, a privilege that many other students in other states don't have.
I would suggest to get involved in any community service projects that they can get in, because quite frankly, a lot of private scholarships reward students for such involvement.
One of the biggest things that I've kind of seen, I think was kind of noticeable, is the Drop the I Word campaign. And sometimes I think how we use words, illegal versus undocumented, it can and does have a negative effect. You say, you're illegal, all these illegal immigrants should get out of here, and why are they here? And I think just be careful and noticing how they use these words and in the context they do it as well.
There's different support systems. One obviously is my family, who's been there supporting me throughout the decisions that I've made. Other, it's the group that I'm involved with. The name is the New York State Youth Leadership Council. So it's an undocumented youth-led organization. When I found out about them, I had graduated from high school, so I was kind of lost. I didn't know where to go. And I ended up meeting many of the members at the time, and they were also undocumented like I am.
Don't waste the opportunity you have, because your parents sacrificed a lot. Like my parents sacrificed a lot to come here. And if you just drop out of high school or do bad in high school, you're just wasting like a giant opportunity that you wouldn't have had back in your other country.
There's so many of us that want to contribute and give back to society. And we technically can't right now, but we're trying and we're pushing for it.
Here in New York, under this program, we can also receive driver's license, which is great news. But at the end of the road, there is still one problem. We are still undocumented. We still don't have a legal status. And so the ultimate solution for this dilemma would be the DREAM Act. I think another misconception that needs to be addressed is that even a lot of senators that are in favor of the DREAM Act, the Development Relief Education for Alien Minors Act, is that the parents are the criminals. This is always brought up even by senators that, according to them, support the DREAM Act. And so it's believed that the criminals are the parents. But as I've always defended my parents, saying my parents are not criminals because survival is not a crime. I used to work in Brooklyn, and I lived in the Bronx, and I went to school in Manhattan. One occasion, I was at work, and we closed like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we still had to clean, so I got out like at 3. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the train to come and take me home, and I was thinking about the homework that I still had to complete. And I thought to myself, I'm still waiting for something to come, and it's not just a train. I'm waiting for some type of change to take place. And so I sat there and I tried not to cry because I thought about all of those things, but at the same time, you need to start thinking about the positive things as well. To think that at the end, it's all going to be worth it, not only in my life, but in the life of so many undocumented students as well, who very much deserve to experience that change.
Learn something? What did you learn?
About college.
And what are you going to do when you go to college? What are you going to study?
I'm going to study math, writing, homework.
And do you see that because you were born here, you have a lot of privileges that your sister doesn't have?
Yeah.
So that kind of means you have to take every advantage and be maybe the president of the college, and maybe you could live in that building, okay?
That building?
Perhaps. Would you like to?
That's college.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to the people of this country?
I love you.
I think they're going to love you too.